Hello, so today I'm going to refine the video that I previously made about what exactly is the south node in 11th house and north node in the 5th house trying to tell you. So first of all, what are the essence and substance of the 11th house and 5th house respectively? So 11th house by summary is about verbal humility and right speech. Essentially, it is about being humble when using your words. Um, Coincidentally, fifth house is about inventing or visualizing new options or avenues of character transformation or development, i.e., reinvent or being creative about new ways to be a better person. Because a better person is not just about being humble when using words. Obviously, not obviously. This is just from hearsay from my religion, but in my religion, someone who is upright is a person not limited to just one quality but multiple qualities. How do I put it into more simple words? It's like there are multiple qualities that can fit the qualifications of being a decent person, right? It's not just like, let's say there are 8 qualities. You only need to be you need only need to match one of it to say to be claimed as a decent person, or not the word claim, to fit the description as a decent person. I hope that makes sense. So your options, obviously there are also much more niche character development and transformation compared to the traditional ones, but the traditional ones are, let's say, as follows: um, right effort, right concentration, meditation, anger management, wisdom, integrity, um, humble when using words, a person who does not give harm, a person who cherishes life, sacred high work ethic, and being mindful about your thoughts. Now, the mindful about your thoughts, the last one is a little bit more complicated. Basically, the essence of being mindful is about being mindful about your thoughts when before you speak, so that you won't speak something that you are trying to manipulate how you are being perceived. That is the essence of it. And so the way the that is it is a coincidence that the North Node 5th house accidentally fills the dynamic of the South Node 11th house, because South Node 11th house is to try to avoid using words or having conversations. It's not exactly like avoiding words. It's like, because when you are speaking, sometimes you may end up in past patterns that might make you to fake humility. Obviously, you don't always being intentional or being malicious about being inauthentic when it comes to humility or being humble, but it's very um, people might relate if they have similar experiences when they are have South Node in the 11th house. And it's very important to really approach this wisely instead of just trying to force your way through when it comes to having conversations, whether it's at gatherings, at public speaking events, at parties, or at contests. Because a lot of contests, there's a lot of underlying or silent or implicit body language that try to not manipulate or try to influence how you're being perceived in a narrative sense. Does that make sense? Like contest, right? Your body language and your confidence, your aura, your radiating it outwards, right? That gives a sense of influence during contest. That gives a sense of influence, and then influence others to perceive you differently. I hope that makes sense. If contests already have that kind of implicit body language, let alone the parties, gatherings, public speaking, so it's very important to be um, very well aware of it. That's why one of the methods is try to avoid being invited when, if unless it's like something you need to do, is which is fine, right? If there is nothing to um, okay, I think I got the message. So it's like if no one is inviting you to ask about advice about how to be more humble when using your words, it's best not to, just give advice, right? It's kind of like content creator, because I did a little bit of like have experience of being a content creator. Is content creators are more like pioneering and steering the wheel, right? You don't want to steer the wheel when it comes to giving advice about how to be humble, right? You want to wait for other people to ask you about those advice, then you answer it. It's not to say don't give advice, it's to like be more yin approach about it, right? Just go with the flow. If someone asks you, you can answer that. But if someone is like doing a very obvious body language, right? Even though it's implicit, you can also answer it. But if it's not something like very obvious, then you don't need to proactively try to approach and give advice. You want to try to be a perseverant and more passive, like reactive advice giver when it comes to humility, not a active speaker. So this is very important when it comes to South Node in the 11th house. The other thing about it is to be very mindful when it comes to, you know, your thoughts. It's a very good counterbalance to how you should speak humbly, right? Because you're very skillful when using your words to how to be humble and give yourself some deference and to not step onto others' ego. And so being mindful about your thoughts before you started speaking is a very good way to really counterbalance the energy of the South Node 11th house. So let's say be mindful. You already apply the rules, but instead of trying to apply the rule outwards to try to um, fix the speech patterns, try to reflect on the inward, right? The same rules, but reflect upon them inward. This is important. So this is another piece of advice. This is the second one, I believe. Yes, about how to be more yin approach or more go with the flow approach when it comes to South Node in the 11th house. The last one is to try to be the first one to initiate parties or contests. Now this might sound counterintuitive, but it's actually a lot more sensible once you hear my reasoning. Right? It's the previous one in the first part of the advice about the South Node 11th house. You may think of that, okay, you don't want to proactively give advice. What if you use the vessels or the kind of like a venue, right? A place to nurture those kind of speech patterns. And so this is very important, right? This is where parties and contests come in. Because you don't want to give advice, but you can use the kind of concept or framework of parties or contests to apply those how do you speak humbly, right? Because in parties and contests you might be very easy to tend to clash into others with different ideologies, right? Where maybe it's more mainstream, you're a more niche person, right? You're a more person that likes a lot more niche preferences, right? You clash with the mainstream ideologies, maybe you clash with more niche ideologies. And this is good for you because now you can actually like be reflective and try to actually speak humbly and be open-minded about different ideologies, whether it's mainstream or niche, because you meet people that have different ideologies, but their way of working with life also doesn't necessarily, like, it's like not necessarily like make a lot of sense. This will help you with how do you speak properly, but now you don't have to proactively be a active speaker about specifically giving advice, right? Because the South Node 11th house, it's, if you try to force it through, it might sound preachy. But now you have a being a initiative of um, hosting parties, being the first one to host parties or contests, so that you can um, use your skills in a applicable sense skillfully. That so your energy within the 11th house and the south node will flow more naturally. So this is what I would try to suggest when it comes to dealing with south node in the 11th house. And so this now comes to the north node in the 5th house, because this is actually a really good house for the south node in the 11th house. Did I say north node in the 5th house right? I hope I did. I just want to clarify because I might have spoken wrong just now. So it's to explore new options outside of verbal humility and try to not just focus on developing your own quality of being humble when speaking with your words. And this is very important to you in your life, this life. I don't know how accurate this is, but for me, it's pretty accurate for me, my south node, north node placement. But I do believe even if it's not accurate for you, you can, learn from this a little bit about when, if you like actually deal with this kind of life lesson combo, you actually take away from this advice pretty helpful. So let's say it's north node, fifth house, right? There are a lot of more options. And so let me just give a few examples, and then also what is the main thing you need to consider when it comes to north node in fifth house. But because it is a good thing, but it's more of like in, you have the initiative and the proposal, but you don't have the foundation, right? You need to meet people who has the foundation. And so let me try to explain this. So north node in the fifth house, right? Fifth house is about, along with seventh house and ninth house, are all about character development and transformation, right? It's about um, having inner confidence in goodness and goodwill, as well as being resilient, maintain your integrity, as well as focusing on the controllable elements in your life. What are the uncontrollable elements in your life exactly? Well, it's wisdom, high work ethic, sacred high work ethic, verbal humility, but we don't want to try to touch on or involve in more opportunities of verbal humility if we can, right? We try to avoid it unless you need to. So try to develop other directions of goodness and goodwill. For example, sacred high work ethic, how to, let's say even go vegan and cherish life, right? You don't need to go vegan to like cherish life, but obviously there are other acts, but this is one of the main concepts, right? Cherishing life, sacred high work ethic, mindfulness, integrity, wisdom, anger management, meditation. These are the other seven, right? Including being humble when using words, that is all eight of them. And so these eight are essentially the eight main directions when it comes to developing whichever or whatever goodness you want to develop. So if you're not developing verbal humility, try to develop the other seven. It will help counteract your energies within the 11th house in a more healthy way. Now, one thing to be very mindful about this is that because you are north node in the 5th house, you don't necessarily like have many resources when it comes to meeting with talented people about either like right view, like having wisdom or discernment when it comes to people who has the appreciation about what elements they can control in life, right? Like wisdom, integrity, what I said before, etc. So right, north node in the 5th house means that not only do you need to start to explore it, but you also need to start to explore the related people that relate with what character development and transformation you want to try to climb the ladder. I still don't know what that phrase is. Hold up. What character development, what area of character development and transformation you want to cultivate and nurture? That doesn't mean you necessarily have lack good friends about these kinds of when that appreciate goodwill or good conduct or like wisdom kind of stuff. It's just that because like uh, I just doing a prediction. This is what I mean. My teacher taught me. Probably in the past life, you probably lack the initiation to like, oh, you're being the first person to like, um, suggest something like, oh, I want to be a better person. How can I be a better person, right? You lack the opportunities, or you lack the kind of like being motivated about trying to ask these questions. So this is now becoming important for you to uh, try to be open-minded when it comes to developing different kinds of qualities and virtues and goodwill, but be very cautious and careful, and always be asking advice about being more conservative when it comes to like the logic between which kind of people are good at these kinds of tasks, right? For example, these kinds of persons are probably better at non-dependence on physical stimulus, non-clinging, non-attachment, and meditation. And so these guys will probably help you develop a goodwill quality of more being more meditative and non-dependence, right? I think that's a very important, right? It's to be open-minded about what good qualities you want to cultivate, develop, nurture, or pursue, but be logical, right? But not don't be nonsensical. Is what I'm trying to explain or elaborate in detail. So this is the um, basically what the message of the South Node in the 11th house and North Node in the 5th house is trying to tell you. So hopefully you guys find this helpful. This is the end of the video. Thank you. Goodbye.